The heroes you grew up watching were child soldiers on dead planets, cyborgs who never consented to being rebuilt, refugees leading the last survivors of their species, victims of a toy company that killed them on screen to sell new products. And almost none of you realized any of this was happening because you were 6 years old watching Saturday morning cartoons. Saturday morning cartoons in the 1980s. You remember the theme songs. You remember the action figures. You remember sitting 6 inches from the TV with a bowl of cereal. What you don't remember is the body horror, the genocide, the dystopian politics, the psychological manipulation. Because you were a child, and children don't process what they're actually seeing. But the evidence was there, on screen in every episode. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. 7 cartoons, 7 case files, not speculation, the content actually aired. Let's move. In 1983, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe debuted. A muscular prince with a magic sword fighting a skull-faced demon on a planet called Eternia. Pure fantasy, sword and sorcery, good versus evil. Here's what the show never explicitly told you. Eternia is not a fantasy kingdom. It's a post-apocalyptic wasteland. The world was ravaged by something called the Great Wars, a civilization-ending catastrophe that destroyed most of the planet's technology and left the survivors living among the ruins. Castle Grayskull isn't just a castle, it's a bunker, a remnant of a pre-war civilization containing technology and power that the survivors no longer understand. Skeletor is from another dimension. The sorceress of Castle Grayskull is a prisoner. She is bound to the castle and can never leave. Prince Adam was raised by a soldier, man-at-arms, not by his parents. His father, the king, is barely present, and his mother, Queen Marlena, is an astronaut from Earth who crash-landed on Eternia and can never return home. What most people do not realize is that He-Man is a child. Prince Adam is 16. He transforms into an adult body through the power of Grayskull, but his consciousness remains a teenager's. So the premise is, a 16-year-old boy given a weapon of mass destruction, fighting a demon from another dimension on a planet that's already been destroyed once. It's not a cartoon, that's a war crime waiting to happen. In 1986, the Transformers, the movie, hit theaters. In the first 30 minutes, Optimus Prime dies. On screen, fully animated, he turns gray. His eyes go dark. The music swells, and children in theaters across America started crying. Hasbro and the writers have confirmed this on the record. They killed Optimus Prime to clear the toy line. They wanted to sell new characters, Rodimus Prime, Galvatron, the new lineup. And the easiest way to make children want new toys was to kill the old ones. It's not a creative decision. That's a product rotation strategy that used death as its primary mechanism. And Transformers wasn't alone. The same year, the G.I. Joe animated movie killed Duke. Same strategy, same corporate reasoning. Hasbro was systematically killing off children's favorite characters to drive toy sales, and they did it during theatrical releases where parents had paid money to bring their kids. Someone sat in a boardroom and decided that inducing grief in 6-year-olds was an acceptable marketing expense. Inspector Gadget, bumbling cyborg detective, Go-Go Gadget, catchy theme song. Everyone remembers it as a comedy. Here's what you missed. He is deployed on dangerous missions by an organization, secretly led by Chief Quimby, that refuses to tell him what happened to him. His niece Penny, a 10-year-old girl, does all the actual detective work while acting as his handler. His dog Brain, who is more intelligent than he is, protects him from threats he cannot perceive. The show plays all of this for laughs, the bumbling cyborg, the silly gadgets, but the underlying premise is body horror of the highest order. A man whose body was taken from him, whose mind was erased, who is used as a weapon by people who will not tell him the truth, while a child does the dangerous work he can no longer perform. That's the record. In 1959, the Belgian cartoonist Peyo published a Smurf story called Les Schtroumpfs Noirs, the Black Smurfs. In this story, a Smurf is bitten by a black fly and turns black, violent, mindless, He bites another Smurf. That Smurf turns, then another, and another. It spreads exactly like a zombie outbreak. The Smurf village descends into chaos as the infected multiply. When the Smurfs were adapted for American television in 1981, Hanna-Barbera completely erased this origin. The Black Smurfs became the Purple Smurfs, a sanitized version for children's television, but the dark roots remained embedded in the show's DNA. Smurfette was created by Gargamel, the villain, as a weapon designed to destroy Smurf society. She was built in a laboratory. She was programmed to cause chaos. Papa Smurf reformed her through magic, but her origin is unambiguous. She is an artificial being, designed by a villain for sabotage, now living among the people she was built to destroy. There is one female Smurf among approximately 100 males. She was literally manufactured, and the animated series presents this as heartwarming. Thundera exploded. Everyone the ThunderCats ever knew is dead. Their entire civilization, gone. They are the last survivors of their species, fleeing to a planet that is not theirs, carrying a sword that contains the trapped essence of their ancestors. And the one who is crowned king of these survivors? Lion-O, a child. Lion-O's suspension capsule malfunctioned during the voyage. His body aged into adulthood, but his mind didn't. He is a 12-year-old boy in an adult body, crowned king, handed the Sword of Omens, and told to lead the last remnants of his people against Mumra, an ancient demon who has ruled Third Earth for thousands of years. The mutants, Slythe, Monkeyan, Jackalman, are the remnants of slave races that rebelled against the ThunderCats on Thundera. The show frames them as villains, but their backstory is that they were enslaved by Lion-O's ancestors. Mumra is not just a villain, he's an ancient evil that predates all of them, and the ThunderCats landed on his planet and started a war. The politics of ThunderCats are more complex than Game of Thrones, and everyone involved is either dead, enslaved, or a child. 6 children enter a Dungeons & Dragons theme park ride. A portal opens. They are transported to a fantasy realm. They meet the Dungeon Master, a small robed figure who gives them magical weapons and tells them their quest is to find a way home. They never do. The show ran for 27 episodes over 3 seasons. The final episode, Requiem, was scripted but never produced. The children find a portal home, but one of them, presumably Venger, having been redeemed, must stay behind to close it. That episode was never animated, so canonically, those 6 children are still trapped in the realm. 40 years later, they have not escaped. The most widely discussed fan theory, and I'm not endorsing this, I'm telling you it exists for a reason, is that the children died in the theme park accident. The realm is an afterlife. The Dungeon Master is a psychopomp, a guide for souls. Venger is their unresolved trauma, and the quest to get home is a quest they can never complete because the home they're trying to reach doesn't exist anymore. The show never confirms this, but the show also never lets them leave. And when you're a child watching, you don't notice that the happy ending never arrives. You just wake up next Saturday and watch the next episode, assuming eventually they'll get home. They didn't. Voltron, Defender of the Universe. 5 space explorers piloting robot lines that combine to form a giant warrior. Colorful, exciting, Saturday morning perfection. Voltron was assembled from a Japanese series called Beast King Go Lion. In the original, Sven, the pilot of the Blue Lion, is killed. Not written out, not sent home. Killed. Characters die on screen in Go Lion. There is real violence. The stakes are life and death. The American version edited around every death. Characters who were killed in the original were written out with injuries, transfers, or simply vanished with no explanation. An entire generation of American children watched a sanitized vision of a war story where the casualties were removed and the violence was softened. What most people do not realize is that this wasn't unique to Voltron. Nearly every Japanese series adapted for American television in the 1980s went through this process. Robotech, Star Blazers, Battle of the Planets. The violence was removed. The deaths were erased. The moral complexity was flattened. And an entire generation grew up thinking war stories were about robots fighting monsters, not about people dying. 7 cartoons, 7 case files. and the evidence is straightforward. He-Man was set in a post-apocalyptic wasteland and starred a 16-year-old given a weapon of mass destruction. The Transformers movie killed Optimus Prime to sell toys. Inspector Gadget was a body horror comedy about a man whose body and mind were taken from him. The Smurfs originated as a zombie plague story and starred an artificially created woman designed as a weapon. ThunderCats was about the last survivors of a dead planet led by a child in a man's body. Dungeons & Dragons was a series about children who never escaped and may never have been alive to begin with. Voltron was a war story with the war removed. These shows were not dark by accident. They were dark because the source material, comics, films, Japanese series, European graphic novels, was dark. The darkness was just translated into bright colors and theme songs and toy commercials. And you were too young to notice. That's the record. Which of these hit you the hardest? Drop it in the comments. Hit subscribe. There are more case files coming.